This is Abe Friedtanzer from Ward's Radar, and I'm so thrilled to be speaking with Kristin Chenoweth about Schmigadoon. How are you, Kristin?
I'm good. How are you doing, Abe?
Good, good. I really love this show, and I think you make so much sense on it. Was it an obvious yes for you to do this series?
Yes. I mean, the first season happened during the pandemic that, before even vaccines. And I got a call from Barry Sonnenfeld and Cinco Paul, and I was in Palm Springs just enjoying my pandemic life. And they said, "You've got to do this." And I said, I knew about it a year before because they'd asked me to do a reading and I couldn't. And I said, "Oh, that's back." And they said, "Yeah, it's back." And I said, "Okay, let me read the script." They sent it to me and I was like, pretty much, yeah. The answer is yeah. I'm going to do this show.
And it's fun to see the characters that you play that are obviously based on some major musical characters. Have
Yeah.
you performed in those shows previously that your characters are based on?
Do you know that I have performed in Annie? I did the movie with Kathy Bates and Ellen Cumming many years ago, and I played Lily St. Regis. So, and Carol Burnett is my mentor, and she played Miss Hannigan all those years ago. And I haven't been in Sweeney, but I think that would be fun someday. Alan and I have talked about it a lot, but getting to kind of meld those two characters together. At first, I was like, "How that going to work?" Cinco, the way his mind works is so genius. And also, I remember when he said, "You're going to have a Sondheim like this song called The Worst Brats in Town." And my job is obviously to make it look easy, but it's hard. And Sondheim. And when I got it, I said, "You're going to try this. You're going to try to emulate Sondheim." Like, good luck. Like, I almost patted him on the head, all right. And then I was just so wonderfully surprised by what he did with it. And I know that Stephen would have been proud. I know Stephen would have been proud.
Additional challenge is that it's very funny. Is it ever hard to get through these lyrics without just, laughing?
Yes, we did this the duet with me and Alan. I forget what it's even called. And it's all about the orphans and what we're going to do with them. And the lyrics are so funny. And I said to Cinco, "How am I ever going to get through it with Alan coming?" And Alan said the same thing. "I can't look at her. Like, I can't look at her because this whole idea, without giving too much away, comes from Miss Caldwell." And we made a mutual agreement, me and him. I said, "We will not, this is serious business until it's over." And because we wanted to get it right, and we wanted to get it right soon because we're working with people who are younger in that scene. And it just, it flew by. I loved that scene so much because it had a lot of elements to it that make for such great entertainment, just honestly.
I spoke to a few of your co-stars and I always asked, who would you like to have shared more screen time with? And almost everyone said you and Alan. So it's really fun to see the two of you get to be together, especially given your previous collaborations. What was it like, especially after season one, too? Just this different kind of relationship.
He's been my work husband for 24 years. And no thunder. Sorry. Um, and he is not just a joy to work with, but he's also my friend. He knows me pretty dadgum well, and I know him very well. Um, we used to be the ones that were, Dove and Aaron, and now we're us. And with that is comes a lot of freedom of just delve into it, and who cares? You kind of eventually graduate by what people think of you, and it just led to freedom and permission to just have more fun. And working with him, if I got a job where I could go to work every day with Alan, I'd be so happy.
Well, you say it's fun, but season two is also pretty dark. Was that
Yeah.
ever difficult, just dealing with that like pitch blackness?
Yeah, especially considering my character, is the nod between Hannigan and Lovett, Sweeney and Annie. Um, and what's the likability of her? Every time I play one of these characters, which I seem to get them a lot in different ways, what is the likable quality about her? What is the thing? And I think that she's not had love, you know she not had love, and she kind of wants it. She says it in Worst Brats to Town. And me, I'd like to do some misdeeds of my own with this guy. And I think that's kind of what kept it a little bit light for me to remember her, that she likes him. And then there's a scene we just did that was just on the air where he and I are just staring. I'm staring at him just like he's a piece of meat and he's got his cleaver out. And, we had a hard time getting through that scene without laughing. And Cecily and Keegan were no help. They were no help. I did a moment where I chopped his meat with a cleaver, like a ton, like it went on a little long, but they were crying. And we just had to get that out of our system so that we could then do the thing.
And that's also sort of challenging. You're not really supposed to use a, cleaver to just chop meat that you're about to eat. It's more for carving and murdering and other
I know I'm
things.
like, could I have some dog food, please, to cut this thing? It's hard.
I also enjoyed Mildred in season 1, though she's certainly a curmudgeon. What could you relate to about her?
I think a lot of people who deal with serving up hate and judgment are really insecure and sad. And so whenever I looked at her, like she's lonely, clearly she's beaten down her husband. She trusts no one. And also she's the one that gave up the baby she had the child out of wedlock. A lot of things became clear for her. The end of the show and end of season 1, people were like, oh, I see Mildred is seeing the light. And so I'd like to think that after that, Mildred served up a little bit more love than hate. And so I just tried to look for the love in her. Like, what is she missing? She's clearly unlovable. She views herself as unlovable. And so many people that do aren't very pleasant to be around.
Yeah. If there was a season 3 of this show, do you have an idea of who you might I'm sure you would do it no matter what, but is there an idea of who you would love to be able to play? What kind of role you'd be able to do?
Oh, I'd play anything Cinco has for me. I mean, I'd like to move into the 80s. There's Les Mis, there's Phantom, Das Phantom der Oper. I did it in German once. Um, there's a lot of great shows that we could revisit. 80s and 90s, I'd say. Sunset Boulevard. There's one. I wouldn't mind playing a little bit of Norma. There's Into the Woods. There's Fontaine and Les Mis. I mean, I'm just looking at the parts I would be right for now. I mean, I played Christine and Phantom, but couldn't do that now. I could if I was very, very far away from the camera.
Well, you go far enough and you get to something like Wicked. Would you ever wanna do a role that you've done and then reinterpret it some way?
That's a good question. I've thought about it a little bit because Glenda is kind of ageless in a way because I mean, it's a phantasmagorical world, so she can be any age really. I don't think I could play I'd like to play her as a student when she's Galinda, but I think Glinda, sure. But I think there might be something more interesting, you know. Like if I look at Hamilton, I've been obsessed with the role of the king. And, that'd be fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's such a popular time for bringing back all these shows that just didn't succeed or do that well. I'm talking at TV, not Broadway, but, Pushing Daisies, I loved that show, and we that was definitely a casualty of the writers' strike. That was one that probably could have kept going.
Yeah.
Is that a role that you would be eager to revisit again?
Yeah, because and Brian has talked to me a little bit about it in our cast. The only one that has to look the same is Anna Friel. She's like, what am I gonna do? But there's always she first of all looks glorious for her age, but there's always things and tricks to do. But nobody says Olive hasn't aged or Ned or I mean we're human, so it'd be great to go back and see what Olive's doing now. And when Brian kind of told me what he thought Olive was doing, which I won't give away, I was just I had a near death experience. I was like, please let this happen. It's so genius, his mind. And I know he's fastly working on an outline for it. So
Great to hear. Well, I know I also have enthusiasm for a show that I don't think was quite as, popular cult-wise, and that's Trial and Error. It's a show I very frequently it's very, very quotable.
thank
What
you.
was what was filming that show like?
I feel like for the first time in a long time, the gun went off. I'm at the gate and I just got to run. And every person in the cast felt that way. And Jeff Astroff set up this wacko world. You know, it's in the same vein as Schitt's Creek. And when I joined, I didn't even know if we were going to have a season three. And of course, we didn't. We were, I think, a problem child in that it was brought on by one and somebody else came in and, didn't want to inherit that. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I know that for me, being able to play such a batshit crazy lady who thinks she's clearly nothing, her crap doesn't stink, was so fun. I mean, she's so twisted, and getting to just look at people and not call anybody by their name. There was Nick's part, which was lawyer, and just, and I find myself doing that in my real life now. I call my manager, I go, manager. I can't help it. And lawyer is lawyer. And it just, and I was just the new guest star for season 2. And Jeff had said, well, when we come back, we're going to visit Lavinia in the jail and she's going to have her cat. I'm like, well, she's got to have her cat, that hairless cat. So I would give anything for that to happen. I loved it. People write about it still. They're like, the show you missed. The show you missed. The New York Times did an article about it the other day. And I'm just like, yeah, man, people watch it. Please watch it.
It would be great. Absolutely. Well, what else are you working on right now?
I've just released a book and that's been fun. I'm doing a lot of concert dates as well. I am producing and starring in a Broadway show in about a year's time called The Queen of Versailles. And it reunites Stephen Schwartz and I back together for Broadway. And I'm very excited. We have finished clearly mostly Act 1 and a lot of Act 2. And Stephen's music is maybe the best it's ever been. And so I'll be honing that, working on that the next year. And I'll be recording a new album soon as well. So I'm busy. I'm lucky. And then, of course, hopefully there'll be a season 3 of Schmigadoon.
Let's get a season 3 of all 3 series we talked about. That would be great. I know they're not as
Love
likely, but
you.
let's get it going right now.
I seem to be in shows like GCB was another one where people are discovering it. Now they're like, this is genius. I'm like, I know. I just seem to be like a little bit ahead, just a little bit ahead. GCB should never have been on ABC. It should have been on Netflix or Hulu or something. I'm lucky though that those shows gave me the experience to get to play the roles and get to move on to other things. But would I like a show to last? Yeah, I would. I mean, I got to be on West Wing the last 2 years and I was on Glee the first couple seasons. And that was joyous to get to just know that you're in a show that's a hit, you know?
Well, let's hope for that for Schmigadoon and for a little bit of energy for those old ones that we've sort of forgotten about.
Thanks, Abe, from your lips.
It was wonderful to meet you, Kristin. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes.
You too, honey. Take care.